By the rivers of Babylon, yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh, by
Shalom, shalom, family, and welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York, giving all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High King of the universe for life, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Thanking the Creator for all of our lives, praying that the Most High God continue to bless each and every one of us with life, the blessings of heaven, and that the Most High God continue to help us to navigate through any tough times, praying that the Creator will continue to watch over us, protect us, and guide us. I hope that everyone has had a great Shabbat day, and that whatever came forth for you, whatever the teachers taught on the Shabbat day, that it was edifying and that it added to your life and caused you to be better. This whole thing is about being better, getting better, edifying ourselves, and so that we could live a better life, so that we could have a better future and gain understanding of this torah. We never stop learning. Learning continues, but we want to add to our knowledge and continue to increase our knowledge. So we're thankful to the Creator for all things and everything. Today we'll be going over the portion of Noach, the Sidra Noach, and for that I'll pass it on to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Brother Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the Supreme Intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respect to the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, Chief Prince Ariel Ben Saska, to the host, Chief Uzal, to the Prince, Chiefs, Kohanim, Rabbinate, Maureen, brothers and sisters and visitors to the channel. I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to say Adonai Septai Titaku Piyagi Tiateaka, O Lord, down my lips, and my mouth should declare that praise. I'll be touching up, going back a little bit to the Bereshit, which is the early parts of Genesis, and then going to Noah. Noah got two main stories that's taking place in there, which is the flood story and the Tower of Babel. But since I didn't touch on a couple other stories within Genesis last week, I'd like to just highlight some points in there as well. Also, I'd like to address J. Don Yisrael thing in reference to his statement concerning Genesis 3:16, and in reference to not being a command but consequences of sins of Adam's action, which I'll go back just read what he was talking about at 16 and 19. Excuse me. 16th chapter. 3rd chapter, 16th chapter of Genesis. 3rd chapter, 16th verse of Genesis. It says, "Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy pain and thy travail. In pain thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In toil thou shalt eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee. And thou shalt eat the herb of the field, and the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it thou wast taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return." Now, when I spoke on that before, I mentioned that the ground was only two things was cursed, and maybe I had to make myself clear enough. Looking at the question or the statement that pretty much that the brother had put, and I made it clear that Adam was never cursed in that situation, nor was the woman ever cursed in that situation. Only the serpent and the earth was cursed, the ground was cursed. Now, what's interesting, I did say it would multiply pain and conception, and I didn't just say all physical pain. I described that pain, anxiety, and worrying about a mother worrying about their child, even if they're grown. So, but the multiplied pain, it doesn't describe what's going to always be physical, but most times it's when most females have labor pain, which we know from different parts of the scriptures, we'll talk about that. But that's not the only pain a mother would have to bring forth children. And bring them into a world which we're getting ready to discuss now, a corrupt world, a world of chaos, of nothing but hostility and violence. So those things could be a form of pain and anxiety. All right, so, but we know that's a consequence and not a command. It was a consequence for her. And all women to a degree receives pretty much element of that. And when Adam was the work, and eat bread from the sweat of his brow. And Adam was to toil vigorously. And when we look how long, and I may mention last time, that Adam lived to be 930 years old. So that means that the last man we read about in the Genesis to actually that's mentioned lived long enough to see Adam in his 50s, early 50s, was Lamech, the father of Noah, and not the Lamech from the line of Cain. And as we get ready to go into the book of Noah, which before we get into the book of Noah, I will focus on a particular excerpt on that area there. But it was another story I wanted to focus on. So it's not that everybody worked on the sweat of their brow. It was the consequences for Adam as long as he was on the earth. And it was substantiated more towards the end of that particular portion of Genesis. So I hope I made myself a lot clearer than I did previously. So, and for the most part, I don't think every Israelite thinks that, oh man, supposed to work from the sweat of their brow every single day. We even have a saying when I was on the job that we don't work hard, we work smart. And that's the saying. We work smart, we don't work hard. And that's one of the areas that we learn. So I hope I addressed that. Now, and we know there's Spanish and everything like that. And to know the garden was protected. So the fourth chapter of Genesis, I want to just come in a little bit and bring it all the way up to Noah. And so it's a lot of relationship between the flood story and the early part of Genesis, which I will try to sum up briefly. Now, the fourth chapter says, and the man knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, which in Hebrew per se Quain, but in English Cain, and said, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again she bore his brother, Abel, which is Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought the fruit of the ground and offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstling of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest good, shall it not be lifted up? And if thou doest not well, sin couches at the door. And unto thee is its desire, but thou mayest rule over it. And Cain spoke unto Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. Now, what you have is the first slaughter, homicide. Now, whether intentional or not, that's always a matter of discussion. That that he actually was trying to kill him. There's a lot of different midrashes, and I don't want to focus on that part at all. And one of the things we know that the word, the Creator used the word lama. Lama we use in chance of why, but for what? Literally, in Hebrew, that's you really don't. The Creator don't need any new information. You can't feed them no new information. But it's like a testimony. When you say madua to an individual in Hebrew, that means I need to know the reasoning, because I'm talking about, some kind of knowledge got to be brought up in the word Yehudah and Ma. All right. So so we're looking for some kind of insight, information. But the word lama that's used in this particular text in Hebrew, it's like I said, your child mess up and say, why you had to go bother that? We don't really looking for an explanation when we know that they shouldn't have been messing with it. And we really ain't looking, we know why they went over there and did it, but it's just an expression, give a person a chance to try to exonerate and confess their ignorance in certain areas or their flaws. And what's interesting, the Creator, it just said he had he had respect, unto Abel's and unto his offering. But he didn't respect, and he said, unto Cain and to his offering, he had not respect. Now, that's in the acceptance there. And he only addressed not how bad the offering was. He don't even address Cain's inattention to the level that he was dealing with this offering and who he's bringing up. And the Creator never asked for offering that we read about in the book from them. This is something he, decided to do for whatever reason you could discuss amongst your teachers. And what's interesting, the Creator only addressed why you angry and your countenance. I'm concerned that your anger is a problem. I'm concerned that it affects you so much that it's causing your body, outside facial features to show. So the anger is not only within you, but the results of it is showing outside of you, which is your countenance. So, and the Creator and them know that you still got hope. You still got a chance. If you do good, you'll be accepted. If not, sin lies at the door, but you can still change that. You can still defeat that. Even though sin wants to get on you, you can still defeat that and come and rise above your station, above your circumstances. This is one of the first major lessons the Creator is presenting to Cain. Then we know the story. He winds up slaying his brother in that area. But the Creator had the Creator, we don't read where the Creator ever had a conversation with Abel Abel. You read he had a conversation with Eve. You read he had a conversation with Adam. And you read where he had a conversation with Cain. But you never, ever read in the text a conversation between the Creator and Havel. And I'll tell you what the name means itself. So that's something interesting to consider. And yet he had respect for him and he accepted his offering. So that's something to ponder as you go further. And when we look and further in the 9th verse, and let's go over there because there's a lesson here I want to get to. And the Lord said to Cain, "Where is Abel thy brother?" And he said, "I know not, am I my brother's keeper?" So, first of all, the Creator asked him, and he's going to say, "I don't know where you're at." So it leaves a questioning, is that if I really know somebody's dead, I know where I left them. So those are some of the things you could discuss and think about. People getting into fights, altercations, children and grown-ups. But when a child get in a fight and they hit a child, he hit him to punish him, but not necessarily thinking that hit gonna make a child die. Men and grown-ups get to fighting because they say, "You disrespect me, and I'm gonna teach you a lesson." So they think about a spanking or a punishment because of whatever the case is. And then, Lord, behold, they got them a body. Not intending. That's why we're not even allowed to fight and according to Torah and get the blows and stuff. And even in sports and boxing, when you're meant to go ahead and disable the guy, you're not intentionally going out to try to kill him in that sense. But so Cain himself, the only individual that questioned, the first individual, not the only, the first individual that actually questioned the Creator was this guy here. Adam didn't question the Creator. Kawa didn't question the Creator. And we don't hear any conversation out of Abel. So now you got the first individual to actually question God. That's something. Even when Adam was told about his punishment, no question, no statement. We read further on that. And we know after that, the Creator said, "Now curse art thou from the ground, which I open up a mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee of strength. A future and a wanderer shalt thou be in the earth." And Cain said unto the Lord, "My punishment is greater than I could bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the land, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a future and a wanderer in the earth. And it will come to pass that whoever finds me will slay me." Now, from God's face, he'll be hid. We read during the time of Yom Kippur that just passed, that Jonah called himself to flee from the presence or the face of God. Chaim saying, "Your punishment here, my punishment here." That means that I'm even hidden from your face. I don't even know how to I can't even come back to approach you to change this thing. And he acknowledged his punishment. So the Creator took that into consideration from what is said, because every man want to slay me. Now, to slay him itself that means there's other siblings and stuff going to be around. You know, we just read about certain names in Genesis, but we know Adam had sons and daughters. So we ain't talking about another world of people other than Adam and all that stuff. So I like to keep it straight with the scriptures in this area here, because those questions come up from time again. And the Lord said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a sign for Cain, lest any finding him should smite him. Now the Creator said, anybody, all the men want to when they see him, they want to kill him. All right, that's what he said in the beginning. All right. So when when it gets to on that area there, later on, God said, all right, if anybody try to kill you, they're gonna want to kill you. But anybody that kill you, vengeance will be taken sevenfold on that. And you know, and it's interesting when you count the generations of Cain to the one where traditions say that the second man that supposed to slay somebody was named Lamech out of the line of Cain. But one of the things I want to bring out that, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod. You can look those up on the east of Eden. So we know about the Garden of Eden. So the whole planet, pretty much what it's called. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. That means Cain had some skills. He was a builder. He wasn't just a tiller of the ground. He was able to build, but also, like I said, he was able to, gain. When you build cities, you're saying, this is my territory, period. Now, he's supposed to be a fugitive and a wanderer. Since when you got time to sit and build a city? When you got time to actually talking about raising a family? As we get ready to go into Lekah, one of the things about Abraham to be a wanderer, not even a fugitive, but according to legends, they have a lot of stories, but basically to be a wanderer, he was going to be a successful wanderer. Most wanderers is never successful, in history. So when we look further here, he did dedicate and named it for a son. So he did some. So he had some certain type of virtues. That means that he wasn't 100% bad, but it was far from being good in that area there. And the Creator, by lightening up the restriction, said everybody want to slay you, but I didn't say they should slay you. So we got to consider those things going forward. And then not only that, when we look at some of the lines, we go into the 19th verse. We talk about, in the 19th verse, and it said, and Lamech, which is one of the descendants of Methuselah, took on him two wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal. He was the father of such as dwelt in tents, being nomadic, and have cattle. So he's a herdsman. And his brother name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as to handle the harp and pipe, a musician. So, and we got the word Yobel similar to that. And Zillah, she bore Tubal-Cain, the forger of every cutting instrument of brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Adonzilla, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech. For I have slain a man for wounding me, a young man for bruising me. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and 70-fold. Now, that lets you know violence started to pick up there as well. And it just for a little bit, maybe, bruised him, could have stepped on his toe, could have bumped him, whatever the case was. There's a lot of stories on that. I'm not getting into the stories. But the main issue that we look at is that there's a lot of things going on behind the screen before I go into Noah. And to understand how we lead up to all this violence in the earth, is that you hearing this man saying 70-fold because of what I did. Anybody try to come after me, you're gonna face consequences 70 to 70-folds because I did this here because something happened to me, as opposed to Cain, who did something where we don't know where anything happened as far as physical between prior, where Abel just go ahead on and slapped him upside the head, took his grain, whatever the case is. There's a lot of other midrash, but I don't want to get into that. But basically, according to the text, we don't see any confrontation prior that would lead up to Cain and Abel getting into a thing where Cain was actually slain. Whereas Lamech is trying to justify and say, this guy, he did a little something to me physically, and I got the upper hand. I went to the extreme. So, and he using like if he's God. He talking like if he's God instead of God. But one of the things I'm looking about the development, cities, music, cattle, domestication of cattle, polygamy, all that pretty much, and dealing with all kind of metals and stuff, a brassmith, all that's from that area of Cain, in that area there. So we see violence coming through that line, arrogance coming through that line, but also certain human civilization development going more into that line of self development as opposed to spiritual development, in that sense, more physical development. Because everything we read about is when we look at the thing about herdsmen, what can I master? You look about music, I'm mastering this, metal, I'm mastering all this. So it's a thing that you could discuss further with your teachers in those areas there. And it's in the 25th verse. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Set. For God had appointed me another seed instead of Abel. For Cain slew him, and to Set, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enosh. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. So we know later on throughout the chapter, I'm not going to go through all this here because I just want to bring out certain points in there. We know that Adam, Set was born unto Adam, and he had a son called Enos. And you're going to see the early names of Cain's sons and the names of Set's sons were actually similar. So we always say in BINAH, you got to focus on Genesis very hard. And that's why I always tell people to discuss certain things. And then the 5th chapter, and this is the book of the generation of Adam. And the day that the Lord, and in the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begot a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Set. And the days of Adam after he begot Set was 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. So when we say got sons and daughters, what about the rest of them sons that he actually had through Mother Chava? He didn't just have 3 sons. He had a bunch of sons, but they wasn't important enough to be named because later on we're tracing a certain type of lineage. All right. So I want to skip down just a little bit and get to the 21st verse in that chapter very quick. And so we know Enoch, y'all read, here we got Enoch. Right. So then it goes on to that was Enoch's father. And Enoch lived 65 years, and we got Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Now, if you're walking with God, you got to be in a good state. Now, he didn't start to walk with God until Methuselah was born, who happened to be the oldest man that that's recorded in the history. What's interesting is that when you look at this guy Enoch, now Cain had a son named Enoch, and this is another Enoch, and they always talk about the book of Enoch. So I'm not even going to go into that, but this is an individual that walked with God for 300 years, and yet what it's telling you is that he still was a family man. So the other sons and daughters not recorded, and just Methuselah's recorded, but how was the rest of his children behaving? That's what you got to ask yourself. Since we only read about one individual that's being behaved, and a man lived 300 years, you can imagine how many sons and daughters he might have in 300 years. And yet his attention and company with the Creator didn't deter him from trying to have some kind of family ties. So we got to consider that going forward as well. All right. And then after that, we know, said 25th verse, and Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived, after he begot Lamech, 782 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969, and he died. So that's it. And then we get into the 28th verse of this 5th chapter. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot sons and sons. Begot a son. I'll back that up. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, this same shall comfort us in our work and in the toil of our hands, which cometh from the ground which the Lord had cursed. So, and Lamech lived after he begot Noah 595 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. What's interesting, what most people don't realize, that Lamech had other kids too, other children. We just read about one, Noah, which I'm moving into the Sidra now. And when we read about Noah in this particular Sidra, we know when Lamech had this individual son, how old he was when he got this individual son. Not saying Noah was even the oldest, but they address John J. Question again. John J. Don, excuse me, young man. If I got it wrong, forgive me. As long as Adam's on the earth and it cursed, it affected everybody else as well. And how we know it affected everybody else is because of this particular portion that I just read concerning Lamech. He looking for a comfort zone, because as long as Adam on the earth, you think he's going to have it hard, nobody else going to have it hard. So as long as Adam's on the earth, everybody had to really put some work in, some serious work in, so much so that I mentioned that, and the age is given when how old was Lamech when Adam died? So he's in his 50s. And you see how old he was when Noah was born. And they said, okay, maybe we could get a break some kind of way. And I'm looking for my son to be an avenue to save our future and make it easy for me. Normally, it should be reversed. The father should be making it easier for the son, but the father looking for the son to make it easier for him. That's why I say comfort. Maybe I'll get some comfort. Maybe things start to change a little bit. They got a lot of different things that they say about what Noah come up with and then, invented and all that. But I don't want to touch on that. I just want to say that it's strange, but we should look for our reward is based on our sons and children being successful. That should be a great reward. Your children graduating, becoming the responsible human beings in society, making a living and everything. So that should be all our goals if you have children, that your badge of honor is your children being successful in a good, righteous way. God-fearing. All right, so now we'll go in the 32nd verse. And it said, and Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. He had 3 sons. All right, now we're going to go, and you say, well, that's a long time to talk about these 3 sons, and we know that's the only children Noah had. So, and then it goes on to say, and it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, whomsoever they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always abide in man forever, for that he also is flesh. Therefore shall his days be 120 years. The Nephilims were in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they were born children unto them, the same were mighty men, they were of old, the men of renown. Now, the sons of God, they always have this issue, about the sons of God. And I would say the only line that talk about and begin to call on God's name is out the line of Set. You don't hear any of that area coming from the line that came from what we read thus far. So the sons of God would be the line of Set, where the true worship of God would still be in some fashion or form. Enoch walking with God, you don't read about nobody else hanging out, where Cain had to leave the presence of the Lord and were forced out. So that let you know something. So, we know there's a lot of mystic things about angelic beings and all that, but that's not what what I find here. And that's not what the school I come from. And the Lord, so they became, so that means that the moral issue is that, they came in the doors of men. That's what they did. And then in the 5th verse, it says, and the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. All right. So I tell you right then and there, and this is the thing we need to look at. All right. The wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And he repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and creeping things, and fowls of the air, for it repented me that I made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Now, this is where we come in with Noah again. How did he find grace? What did he do? He had a great grandfather that walked with God for 300 years. So if he had a great grandfather that walked with God for 300 years, then he must have realized that it's certain things I could do that's different from the tide that's going on. Not only that, I wait 500 years to get some children. 500 years. Because the way society is, I don't want no children in a society such as this. So now, what began to change? And then when you're talking about a man days to be 120, that means that's not so much the life expectancy of a man, because we know Aaron lived past 120, Abraham, and all the patriarchs, even the shortest of the patriarchs. So it doesn't mean that its deadline ceiling for a man was 120. It meant that before the drama hit, for the creators decide to do some real cleanup, this one, that's how long it's going to be. 120 years. So now it goes on to say we into the Sidra, and then we're talking about the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Now, to do something evil, we just passed through a period, and I want people to think about this and consider and speak more to it with your colleagues or teachers. Man is not inherent evil. Evil, wickedness is something or practice or standard done with great skill. So it had to be something that you develop into, something that you got to learn. So when we talk about teshuvah, return, we return into something that wasn't corrupted. That's the only way you could possibly talk about I'm being better and getting back to what God had made me and designed me to be. If there was no spot in you where you could return back to that place that's uncorrupted, then repentance would be a fable. Change, returning to God would be a fable. It'd be a myth, it'd be a lie. So wickedness is a principle, a standard done with great skill. So it had to be a certain type of development for you to say, I think I ought to take that. I think I ought to do this. And knowing is wrong. And you constantly focus on doing wrong. So, and I want to make sure, people understand that, because the way it was, most people will look at this and think, man, can never do good. Been doing wrong too long, don't know how to do right. And that's not true. And there was even a song like that, old song. Been doing wrong too long, don't know how to do right. So, but Noah found grace. This is the first time that term chain is ever used here, in the eyes of the Creator. And said, in the eyes of the Creator, did the Creator know? Did he know the end of everything before it exists, and there's no place where he can't see? So that means that I'm looking at you. God stated, and it said he repented him. In other words, it hurts him that man is in the earth and corrupting what was developed to be a paradise. So this is what he's looking at. And the beast's going to pay too, because even all flesh, beast, everything, had corrupted itself. So man influenced that as well. And one of the things is that sometimes when you develop your children and you educate them, you try to, guide them in the right direction. And sometimes they get to a stage, they say, well, I'm going to do it my way. And their way is the wrong way. Try to convince them and everything. But sometimes they have to go through the pain and the struggle. And some people will persist in that pain and that downward road struggle and be stubborn in their ways. And so we had free will, but we won't do the will of God. And with the free will in the earth, that we refuse to do the will of God and say, I don't have to follow him. I do what I want to do. I'm living for my pleasure. It's almost like one philosopher said, all men seek pleasure and avoid pain, which is true. And they seek pleasure, but they try to avoid pain. But some don't see that the pleasure will cause the pain. So now, in the book of Noah said, now these are generation Noah. Noah was in his generation a man righteous and wholehearted. Noah walked with God, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence, CHOKMAH. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. For all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. So if all flesh corrupted himself on earth, that means all flesh, animals, everything. And God said to Noah, and the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood and with rooms. And so we can talk about the art here. And it gave a design ark, which I'm not going to go into about the design. You could go over that yourself. But then, but I'm going to skip down and say, he's talking about he's going to bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, when it's the breath of life. The Nishama Ruah, Chaim, that's to say in Hebrew. And from under heaven, everything that is in the earth shall perish. But I will establish my covenant with thee, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives, and with thee, and every living thing of all flesh, to every sort, shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. All right. Now, this is the first time we're talking about male and female for creatures. Before that, we never spoke about male and female except for Adam and Kaaba. That's it. Never before in the scriptures we talk about a female dealing with the sea creatures, female concerning with the fowls, females considering with the males. Though it say multiply, be fruitful and multiply for them. And then, we just take for granted, but this is the first time we find the term Zakar and Nekibar used in reference to other creatures other than man himself. So that's something interesting to consider going forward. Why now? Why it's never spoken on, in the beginning, but only focus on man himself in that framework. So when we look at this here, some people think that when they talk about the generations of Noah and Noah, that he's only righteous in his generation. But Noah had to become the character that that we talk about, righteous, wholehearted, and walk with God. He had to develop into that state. That's part of his makeup. So before he had children, he worked on himself. Most people get the children and then try to develop the children without even trying to develop themselves. But Noah had to go ahead and actually work on himself. And he had to have a guide in order to work on himself. And not only that, any person that's righteous is going to be a descendant of Noah. Any person that's wholehearted going to be a descendant of Noah. Any person that's going to walk with God from that point on is a descendant of Noah. So Noah follows some of the footsteps of his great-grandfather walking with God. So Noah, in the worst of times, achieved something that, that everything was against. being a God-fearing man. That's what Noah achieved at the worst of time, when the Creator said, there's no hope for the rest of them. Now, I'm gonna bring a couple things and just highlight a couple things in there about Noah. After he built the ark and he's supposed to save life, and the thing was that the Creator just told him, bring him on the boat, tell him how long the floods and the rain's going to be upon the earth. At 40 days and 40 nights, he's going to cause it to rain and flood the earth. So you figure, okay, a month and 10 days, basically, give or take. So how long it's going to flood the earth? Now, how long the flood going to last? And this is something that we got to think about, that Noah, they don't talk about the character of his children. And we get information about when Noah, when the flood came. That's just to go fast forward. We got information when the flood came in Noah's life. And it tells you in the book that when the flood came in Noah's life. And also, we got information about when he had those 3 children. We don't have any information about the wives, and we don't have any information, other than the characters of the children. We don't have any information about them at all. But Noah had to work on the ark and build an ark. And the size of the ark itself is, that was a mega ship. And so being a mega ship itself, that was huge, very huge. And it gives you dimensions of the ark and everything. And they use the term gopher wood. Gopher wood is the only time you read about that is in this book of Genesis. So most people would think it's the cypress wood. And that's what most people look at, and according to Ugarit texts and Akkadian languages, the gopher wood. And they call what he's building a teva. Now, what's interesting about the word teva, and the only time you'll see that again is when Moses was placed into a boat by his mother and put in the banks of the Nile. That is the only time you see that word that I recall used there, teva. And what's interesting, the word teva means word, W-O-R-D. We know other words in Hebrew like milah, divur, but the word teva means a word as well as that boat. And know that it has second, first, and third stories, length, width, and depth, and height. And it had a door and a window. And it had cages, and you're going to bring food in. So for his salvation and his family's salvation, he had to not only say, I'm going to be saved, but he'll have to work throughout that process of time to maintain his salvation. And work is, now I got to have all these animals. I got to feed them. I got to bring food for the animals. The food ain't coming to me. I got to make sure I supply the food. I got to make sure I got enough for me and my family as well to eat. And I'm going to be locked up in this here boat, which would seem like you say, is it a prison or is it salvation? Because then I got cages. And sometimes a guy that's a correction officer or a guard in a prison, they say, well, you here as well as I'm here. I'm here doing time, and you here watching me do time. And you clocking time at the same time. So, how glamorous and how easy would that job be for all that time? And we know, according to the story, they stayed on the ark for a year. and 10 days, give or take. That's how long they stayed. And what's interesting, just to be a little quicker, because there's a lot in the story, but I'll be entertaining questions if anything come up later on before we go into the book of Lechlecha, is that the ark was built only to float, not sailing anywhere, just to stay afloat. And also, when we think about the ark, we think about the ark on the level of those animals in the ark, the people that's in the ark, the 8 people in the ark. They are like in an area of, in the beginning, before the corruption hit, and in the last days when the lion would eat grass, all there would be no beast, flesh eating and all that kind of stuff, and violence between creatures. So this is so they was in, that's like the world to come when you look at the ark and how they stayed on there for a year. Another thing I like to point out in reference to the into there is that when Noah gets into the ark, and it gives you like I say, when the flood came in the 600 years, he was 600 years old. So we get that already. All right. And now that gives you the time, the month and the day, second month, 17th day of the month. So what was difference is that we think about just rain. We don't think about the fountains of deep coming up. So water's coming from below and coming from above at the same time. So can you imagine that kind of catastrophe, that you're getting flooded from the bottom and you're getting hit from the top with rain, with water? That reminds you of Bereshit in the beginning, when darkness on the face of the deep, because they're going to blot out the sun. So darkness on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered upon the face of the waters. So before the land was, appeared, he had nothing but water surrounding this whole thing. The Creator decided to give the water decree and say, gather together, and the gathering together the waters he called, seas. But the word, mikveh is, as used in the book, is from what people call mikvah, when people go and immerse themselves to get purified. So water actually purifies and clean. When the priest go, before he go in and out, he got to wash and he got to immerse themselves. When a person become unclean and stuff like that, they can take an immersion in water. So water, is like, all right, I'm gonna straighten you out and clean. So the waters from above and the waters below united once again, like it was, because God caused it to separate the waters from below and the waters from above. Now it unite once again. So imagine how he was in that boat for all that time, for the 40 days, just for the 40 days. Water coming up, water coming down, and yet the boat is not sinking. So it ain't pushing the boat underwater like a submarine, but the rain is still coming down hard, and it's cloudy, and and you put that, and then you still got to work. So, and how comfortable could it be? And then what do you talk about all that time? And then we know that Noah himself, when it came off the boat, we know about it. Sent a raven out, then he sent a dove out several times. So I just want to get past all that part there. And then at the mouth of the Lord, you're talking about when it dried up, and the dove come back with an olive leaf. That Noah, stayed in the ark for X amount of time, which you should read the story again. I'm just going to highlight certain points in the next few minutes. And when he stayed in the ark, he went in at the word of the Lord, and God shut the door. And he came out at the word of the Lord. So Tevach is that sometimes you got to go into the word of the Lord, because I said it means the ark, and it also means the word. So sometimes you get involved in the word of the Creator, and you also sometimes got to step outside of the word of the Creator to work. So a lot of people just immerse themselves in the word of the Creator, but they're not actually doing any work. Sometimes you got to step out from the word of the Creator and put some work in. And this is one of the things, is that Noah went, at the word of the Creator, went inside the word. So what are they talking about for a whole year? And imagine, Noah had brothers. He had sisters, because it told you that Lamech had other sons and daughters. And he died at 777. So he lost his brothers, he lost his sisters, he lost cousins, uncles, everybody in the family. So when he finally come out of the word of the Lord, what did he do? Planted a vineyard, drank, and got drunk. They naked. You're trying to be a husband. And that's another story, which I ain't gonna go into now, but that's the only era that you read about Noah having in his life, because he lived basically 350 years, pretty much, after the flood. So if he lived through pretty much 350 years after the flood, he had not any more children. He never had any daughters, and he died at that time. And when you check the time frame, you know that he lived long enough to see Abraham. I just want to bring one other quick story, right quick, just pass a lot of stuff. But those people, when he was given certain rules and laws, and I know some people don't think of them as rules and laws, but when it came off, there was certain things they was allowed to do, to eat flesh, but they weren't supposed to eat the blood. Also, the Creator created a covenant when they came off, and they called it a bow. And I'm just going to read that little part there. In the 9th chapter, and it says, so you read, begin the 9th chapter, you find about some of the rules that's there. And God spoke unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, as for me, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and every living creature that is with you, the fowl, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you. For of all that goeth out of the ark, even every beast of the earth, and I will establish my covenant with you. So that means that this is not only a covenant with man, but with every creature that was on that ark. So, but man would be able to recognize it better. But this is a contract and a promise that the Creator brings. And we know we talk about Ham and how bad it was, but the Creator still made a covenant with Ham. So that's another discussion for another time. But he also made a covenant with Ham. And it said, my covenant is with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of the flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, this is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you, for perpetual generations. I have set my bow in this cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring the clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the cloud, that I will remember my covenant. All right. Now we know God don't have amnesia, but that's in the language of men, in an anthropomorphism, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on earth. And God said unto Noah, this is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. So it's not just a covenant between mankind. And that's that's important. So we the caretakers, but this covenant is with all creatures that live, because creatures had to die because of man. And every creature have a part in it, but they might not recognize it to the degree we recognize the boat. Now we call it a rainbow simply because, you know, it mostly appear after the rain. And the bow itself, as I explained in other videos, is that when a warrior go to battle, his bow, the arch is towards you, because for war. But if he's not going to battle and he just, going to, greet some people, the bow was turned the opposite way. The rainbow was built where it bows out away from us, like God is keeping peace with us in that sense. After it rained, don't worry about it. Don't be terrified about it. That wasn't good enough for the next group of people that built the Tower of Babel. And I just want to highlight that in a couple minutes. Is that after that, the bow itself, and it's not anything to do with the groups today when you talk about the Rainbow Coalition or and all that kind of stuff, because their bow has 6 colors and the rainbow have 7 colors, and their bow they make up and they put it on patches, whatever the case is. What we have is what God have up above that we can't touch. So that's one of the things to think about in that area there. Another thing is that now we know that when mankind came out and they put spread abroad in the earth, that they built a tower called Babel. And when they built the Tower of Babel, and that's why I'm highlighting a couple of things there. The Tower of Babel, you have 2 stories, the flood story and the Tower of Babel. Every nation had something about dealing with a flood story, and the Eastern ancient nations and Middle Eastern nations, and a lot of them had a thing about language as well. The thing was that all people were speaking in one language, these descendants, and these people built the tower, made bricks, something that was never seen before. They said, well, we're not going to worry about stone. We're going to make something to build strong enough. And they made, made this tower. And the tower was to go against God, the war with God. And you say, all right, the first people were so wicked that it said they did everything imaginable, and continually. And we know what we can imagine today. And then some things we discover on internets and everything else that's different, that we say, wow, I didn't even think people even do something like that. But when we think about what we could do and the different tortures that they had back in medieval periods and stuff and different cultures, then imagine God destroyed them and didn't destroy the people that built the Tower of Babel. The people that died and were destroyed in the flood never wanted to fight against God. They just fought against each other. But the people in the Tower of Babel, they wanted to go straight up and have an issue and a war with God, like if they're going to win anyway. They had an issue with God. And the thing that we learned from this is that God came down, didn't destroy the tower, didn't destroy the people, just confounded the language and split them up. That's why I say Babel, these days for languages. But the word Babel means a gateway to God. We just say confusion because the language was confused there. But the reason is that the unity, the people, God is more concerned with how united you are and how you treat one another, more so than you worshiping him. And so he didn't destroy those people, though they wanted to fight him. They didn't want to worship him. They wanted to go ahead and have a war with him. But the thing was, they were so united. One voice, one name, one language. And God didn't destroy them because of their relationship to one another. Whereas other people had poor relationship with each other. Anything might make right. So what we learned from that thing is that the power of unity and the power of getting along, which is more important, because if we get along with one another, then we could approach God. Most people say, I'm God-fearing and hate everybody else around them. And that wouldn't work. And remember, the first generation didn't have an issue with God. They had an issue with each other. This generation that built the tower had an issue with God, but didn't have an issue with each other. And that generation survived. So with that, we got some of what I said. Any questions, just leave it in the chat. Any mistakes from my own, I'm say, Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah, torah by Nasik. Thanking you all for tuning in. Praying that the Most High God will continue to bless each and every one of you. Yah willing, we will see y'all next week. May the Most High God once again bless you all. Shalom, shalom. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah.